What would you do if somebody asked you to take this recipe that makes 4 gallons and break it down to make only 1 quart of this recipe? Well, this is something very common that we deal with in the industry very regularly. Chefs all the time need to convert recipes to either do more of something or less. Now, in the home kitchen, you might have the same scenario where you need to double a recipe or you need to make about half a recipe. So it's really important to know your kitchen measurement conversions. And one tool in a home kitchen especially, you can get one of these, which is just a magnet that sits on your fridge, has all your conversions, or you could print one out yourself and just stick it somewhere useful, so that way it's handy and you have it at your disposal whenever you need it. Now, in the kitchen, professional kitchen especially, you become really well practiced at your conversions, and it's something that you really just need to know in order to be able to do your job proficiently. So if I were to break this down and I just wanted to make 1 quart, the first thing I'm going to do is see what that ratio is, so I know what number I'm going to be dividing everything by to get that 1 quart. So if I'm going to break this down to only 1 quart out of 4 gallons, I know that's going to end up being 1/16 of the recipe that is shown here. So some of these conversions will be a little easier than others, like the first two of 1 gallon and a 3 gallon, because there's 16 cups in a gallon. So 1/16 of that automatically right off the bat is 1 cup. So we'll grab a piece of scrap paper and we'll write that down, which is an easy thing to do in your home kitchen, to just write everything down. That way you don't have to try to memorize it yourself. So we're going real easy, 1 cup of vinegar to start. The next conversion is really easy as well because it's still dealing with gallons. So if that was 1 cup, you just keep the same ratio, and that turns into 3 cups of oil. And now this is a very basic marinade recipe that we're going to go over a lot more in detail, and we're going to teach you some of the variations that you can do with this basic marinade. But we're starting with just this because it's a good learning tool to start to get into the world of doing all the things that are needed in the home kitchen and that are used every single day in the professional kitchen. So now we're moving on to 4 bunches of parsley. So I could tell you about a bunch of parsley is roughly around 12 stems of parsley. So if we're going to do the math here, you can times 4 by 12 to get 48, and then we're going to divide that by 16, which equals about 1/4 of a bunch of parsley. So we can write that out. Next, we're going to move on to salt. Now, this gets a little trickier because we're dealing with 4 ounces. If you divide that by 16, you have to know some of your conversions in order to get there. So I know that there's 2 tablespoons in an ounce. Times that by 4, that gives you 8. So to go even further, you want to turn that into teaspoons, because that's probably where we're going to end up when we're doing this conversion. So there's 3 teaspoons to a tablespoon. We've already established that there's 8 tablespoons here. So that's 24 teaspoons that we're working with. Divided by 16 is going to give you 1.5 teaspoons. Again, the more times you do this, the easier it's going to get, and you'll actually start to remember certain conversions as you work your way through some of these recipes. So it'll be a lot easier not only to do your conversions, because you'll know how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon, how many of those are in an ounce, how many are in a cup, a quart, and so on. So it makes it a lot easier the more times you do this. Next, we're moving on to the Dijon mustard, which we're starting with 1 cup. If I convert that into tablespoons, it's 8 ounces, and there's 2 tablespoons to an ounce, so that equals 16. We're dividing by 16, so that automatically gives us 1 tablespoon to work with on the mustard. So now that we have all of our recipe broken down, we know exactly what we need to execute this recipe, we'll move on into the preparation stage where we gather all of our mise en place together, which will be the very next lesson where we learn that you get all the tools, equipment, ingredients, and everything else that you need to execute this recipe, so that way you don't have to worry about any distractions. Everything is right where you need it, and you can just execute that recipe. And that will be the next lesson. That's it from Ogre's Kitchen. Time to sweep, mop, and go home. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and feel free to share. Subscribe for more content and hit that notification bell for when new videos are uploaded. For all those who are subscribed, thank you for your support. Hope to see you next time, and until then, keep those cauldrons bubbling and feast well.